Hi everyone, Cheryl here today. Thank you for joining me. I want to show you how to make this adorable 3D birthday card using Concord and Knight's birthday stacks stamp and die set. This card is great for pretty much any audience, children, men, women, co-workers. It fits nicely into an envelope and only needs one stamp, so it's not too bulky. And it's just a new twist on a birthday card, which I thought was great. So this is one of my favorite stamp sets. You can tell I've used it a ton. It's got all different components. You can do presents or candles, or the little triangles can be a banner, or you can turn them into birthday hats. The balloons have little strings to go with them, and so what I thought I'd do is the easiest way for me to do these was to make a template. And the templates are super easy to make, and then you just tuck them in your stamp pocket when you are done with them so you have them for next time. The card basically has 5 layers. This is the back layer, which is the balloon layer. Then you have the middle layer, which is for the word celebrate. And then the front layer is the presents or the candles or whatever you choose, and then your sentiment on top is the final layer. So a template for all of these makes it really easy to mass produce these cards. So you can see here I've pre-cut everything. I'm going to make 4 cards today, so I'm going to have 4 borders. Then I've got all of the pieces to make the various different layers that coordinate. So the celebrate layer coordinates with the color with the border layer, and then the other 2 layers are white, which we'll stamp on. And I'll show you how to do that next. Okay, so this is the back layer, and there's going to be 2 score lines on each side, and that's going to be that you fold in and you can tuck it in, that attaches nicely to the border. So here I'm just showing you really quickly where I score it. I score it at 1/4 inch from each end on the short end, so that's the 4-inch end. And just run your score line around down a couple times, get a nice good score, and then I end up folding them later. So here I've shown you I've already scored everything 1/4 inch, and you do that for both sizes, for the front layer and the middle layer. Next, what I'm going to do is show you quickly how I do the stamping, and I won't bore you with showing you all the stamping. I'm just going to quickly do the first one, and then I'll fast forward to the next ones. So the best way to think about it is to center your stamp in between the 2 score lines on each side. And then I also grabbed the coordinating die for this because I stamped it upside down the last time I did it, which I had to completely redo. So here, always good to double check. I'm using Memento Tuxedo Black ink. It's my favorite ink for using Copics with. I find that this one just doesn't smear like some of the others do. So, and it gets a good impression. This ink pad is actually a brand new one. And so I didn't have to stamp it up twice. Okay, so I stamped all 4 of the balloons, and then I'm going to use the candles and the birthday presents on 2 of the 4 cards. So here I'm just centering up the candles stamp and making sure it's in between those 2 score lines on each side so that you don't have runoff. Ink it up real good, and I was trying to keep the paper down with those magnets, but I think they got in the way at some point. You might see them shift around here in a second. Then I pull the old sleeve over the hand trick and give it a good impression. And looks like we just needed to stamp it once. Now I'm going to show you how I'm stamping the presents. And again, I'm just centering it in between the score lines, which you can't see, but you can tell where they are in real life. And I'm just moving it up to the top of the paper as close as I can, but also still leaving just enough room for the die cut to get on the paper properly. Okay, so there's the 2 layers for the presents. Now what I'm going to do is show you how you can color these with the coordinating stamps if you don't want to Copic color them. So we're going to 2 ways. I'm going to Copic color most of them, but one set I'm going to do ink stamping with some ink cubes and the coordinating stamps that go with the set. The ink I'm using today is My Favorite Things Ink Cube Minis. I don't have the colors listed on screen, but I will go back and add that for you later. So I'm lining up my ink cubes because you notice the balloons overlap, and I wanted to be careful about what colors I had overlapping so that I didn't end up with like a muddy color in between. So I ended up moving the green to the end and putting the purple and the blue together, which I think worked pretty good. But then I end up having the purple at the end again overlap the green, so it turned out pretty good. You'll see here in just a second. And so these are actually really easy to line up, and you know, even if you do go outside the lines a little bit, I just think it adds character to your stamping. You can see that, you know, my purple isn't perfectly inside the lines. So, whoops. My computer phone going off on me in the middle of my recording. So there is, again, you can see I went outside the lines a little bit, but I still think it looks great. So I'm going to continue on and do the blue. And speed it up a little bit. I always hold it down pretty good, especially with dye inks, just to make sure the ink absorbs fully off of the stamp. I think it gets a better impression that way. So you can see where the purple overlaps the green, and it's not too bad. It's a little muddy, but I don't think it looks too bad. So now I forgot to put the this balloon strings on, so quickly I'm stamping those up, and I actually did all 4, which I didn't show you. I did them off camera. And then now I'm going to show you how I stamped in the presents, and it's just a little square rectangle. You just ink up and do it just like, stamp it just like you stamp the balloon colors. And I went in the same order with the presents as I did with the balloons. And I thought that looks really cute. So now I'm going to put the inks away and show you the Copics that I used. And I just picked, you know, basic rainbow colors. I can go back and show you the actual Copic colors that I used, but I wasn't very fussy when I was picking out the colors. I just grabbed bright and cheery ones that I thought looked nice in the rainbow order. And this is all single layer coloring. I'm not doing any shadowing. I'm not doing anything fancy at all. And it goes pretty quick. The way I do add character to these balloons without spending the time on doing a whole lot of extra shading and pulling out different shades of Copic markers is I add some white accents later. And then I just color the presents in the same, oh no, I did opposite order. So I started with blue on the presents instead of red. And I think I did that on purpose, but I'm not sure why. So here I've colored all 4 sets, and now I'm just showing you how to put on some white accents, which just adds a little bit more character to the design, again without adding multiple shades. If you want to spend the time and do some pretty creative shading, these would look, I've done some cards that are some stamping with these where I've spent a lot of time doing shading and highlights and things like that, and they do look really nice. But for this particular project, because I was trying to get a bunch of cards done, I chose to go with the single layer coloring. And I think they turned out great. So here's the final 4 all colored up. And then I did not put any white accents on this one. I just left that plain. Okay, now I think we're going to go into die cutting. Yeah, so you have to die cut every single piece, and it doesn't take as long as you'd think. There are, 5 components to the card, and 4 of those components all have to be die cut, but it goes pretty quick. So here I'm just showing you which dies go to which pieces, and I'm going to do all the die cutting off camera, and I'll be back. Okay, so here's everything all die cut, coordinated, ready to go. Now we're going to do a little bit of scoring on the sides of the colored pieces, because I don't think we've scored those yet. So I'm going to show you that next quickly, and then we're going to assemble. So with the border, you want to make sure you score on the back side, so that when you fold them, the creases doesn't get all bumpy. Like if you score something and you fold it the wrong way, the crease isn't as clean. So I score on the back side of the border, and I score at 1.25 inches in from each end. Okay, so everything's scored, and I'm just measuring quickly to make sure the inside is the right measurement. And all of those Celebrate pieces are scored, and now I'm just going to quickly fold them up. Next I'm going to use some score tape, and this is the really thin, I think this is 1/4 inch, or even it might be thinner than that, because it's not overlapping on that 1/4 inch flap, so it's the size down from the 1/4 inch score tape, which I like. So you put score tape on all of the flaps, just like that, and now I'm going to show you how to put them together. So you'd start with the back layer, and I'm just lining it up here to make sure things are still good, which looks like they are. And this is going to come together nicely really fast. I'll show you. Pull off the score tape, flip it over, and you just are going to line it up. I think I'm going to zoom in here in a second to show you. Yeah, you're just going to line it up with the fold. And you're going to put it on the left side of the fold, just like that. And then when you close it, it'll be in the right position. And we're going to put the other 2 layers on next, and then I'm going to show you how easy it is to line up for the sealing of the right edge to make it 3D. But before I do that, I think I decided that the Celebrate didn't pop enough for me because it was gray, and so I cut an extra one to use as a drop shadow, and that really helps it stand out a little bit more, which I thought looked good. So now I'm just going to adhere that using my favorite glue, which is the Lawn Fawn Fundamentals glue tube. I've tried a couple of different other ones. This one is, I don't know why, it doesn't seem to clog as much, and I prefer it. So, and I use it on everything, and it holds really good. So here I'm just putting little tiny dots of glue over the letters, and then I'm just going to lay it on top of that black Celebrate layer and shift it a little bit so that it creates a shadow, or the look of a shadow, which makes it pop out quite a bit more, you can see. And I'm just lining things up a little bit, and then I'm going to flip it over and clip off the excess here in a second. Yeah, see, that really pops more with the black. I like it. Make sure everything's glued down good. Here I'm just trimming off the edges so that we don't have that extra bulk. We don't need it. And then I'm going to show you where you line up the next layer. I don't know why I opened it like that. I think I was thinking I was going to go inside, but no, the layer goes on top of, you build layers on top of the next one. So there you go. Now I closed it. So now I'm going to line it up, and it's just going to go right on the edge of the last one you put down, just like that. And make sure it's lined up. So you can get them on crooked, and then your card won't close properly if it's crooked. So you just want to make sure it's always lined up across the bottom. And then the final layer, which is the candles or the presents. And that just lines up right next to the last one you put in. Fold it over, and you see how they're off. They're notched out a 1/4 inch away from each other. So when you hold it flat like this, like I'm doing, you pull off the tape, then all you have to do is just close the door, which is the right panel of the card. Make sure they're lined up on the bottom, and then just close that door, press it down real good to get a good seal, and there is your 3D. I take a bone folder and just really tighten up those creases so that it folds easily both ways. And this one does. I think that looks great. Now what I end up doing, and this is total personal preference, you don't have to do this. I don't like that extra flap hanging off. So the one in the model that I was showing you has it trimmed off. This one doesn't, but I'm going to trim it off because I don't like it. I think it kind of takes away from the card a little bit more than it should. So if you have a long snipper, scissors, using a small scissors is harder when you're trying to do a long straight cut without any guidelines. If you're more comfortable drawing a pencil line in to cut on, you can do that too, but I usually just eyeball it. So there, it's trimmed up and all assembled. And I'm going to off camera go assemble the rest of them, and here they are. So you can see now we just need to do the sentiment strip across the front. And I'm going to use the happy birthday on the pre-cut strips that I already did. And these are stamped in Versamark ink, and then I must do this one in white. I must heat emboss this one in white. I think they're all done in white. I was going to do one in black. Maybe I did the green one in black. I can't remember. We'll see here in a second. And then I use Brutus Monroe extra fine white embossing powder, which I love. And this is just a little cheapo Ziploc storage container. I think it's for the size, the sandwich size, and it works nice because it's big enough. You can just dip your project right into it. Now that I've got them all stamped and heat embossed, I am using just a Swiffer picker-upper to take that extra annoying embossing powder away. These little Swiffer cloths pick it up really nice, and it takes off the extra powder from when we were doing the stamping. And then I'm going to trim these up using my little scissors, and I just put little flags on each end. And I eyeball this. I don't measure or anything. I just put a strip down the center, and then I cut from the corner in on each end. And then you can see on this end I had a little boo-boo of white embossing powder stray that got melted onto the piece, but it's going to end up getting cut off, so no worry there. Upside down, there we go. And so I've got all 4 cut now, and I'm going to grab my Mondo roll of foam tape and pop them up. But I have to do some cutting of it first. So it's a little bit too wide for my strips. So I'm going to cut it down and then I'm going to trim it, yeah, about a 1/4 inch off. And then I'm really stodgy about my foam tape because it's so expensive, so I keep all the remnants and I just stick them on the side like that, and you'd be surprised how much they come in handy, just the little small pieces that are right there and you don't have to cut. Okay, so I've got everything lined up or taped up, and I'm just going to put them on the front of each one, and again I eyeball it, so I'm standing up over the project and I'm just eyeballing it to see if it's in the center and put it where I want it. Once I feel like I have it, I just press it down. Here are all 4 cards, all finished and assembled. I think they turned out great. But I'm going to show you next what you can do with the backs of them. So here's some ideas. You can leave them plain, you can stamp another message on it. This is a little note card I attached so you can write a personal message inside. This is probably my favorite thing to do to these cards, and this turned out really cute. You could die cut a gift card holder and stick that on the back. And this just shows you what they look like in envelopes and how nicely they fold up. And here's the final. I decided at the last minute to add some extra stamping to the top where it says "It's time to," which goes on the balloon layer, the back layer, and it just basically, I think it reads better. So it's time to celebrate, happy birthday. So here they are. I think they turned out great. I hope you have fun with this set. Thanks for watching if you're still here, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel and click that like button if you enjoyed this video. Thanks everyone. Bye.